a mysterious race of people known as the Lost Tribe of Appalachia that has baffled historians and scientists for hundreds of years. Who were they? How did they get here? And more importantly, where did they go? Coming up, the true, untold story of the Melungeons, Appalachia's Lost Tribe. Hancock County, Tennessee, one of the wildest and most beautiful places in Appalachia. Even today, there aren't any railroads or interstates, and there are only a handful of narrow, twisting two-lane state highways meandering through this remote area. For centuries, only the hardiest of souls called these mountains home, and among them were perhaps the most mysterious race of people in America, the Melungeons. For the most part, their population was clustered atop Newman's Ridge in places like Snake Holler, Mulberry Gap, or Blackwater Creek, and other remote areas just across the state line in Virginia. They weren't black or white, or Native American. Their unique physical appearance consisted of dark, wavy hair with European features such as dark or gray eyes and thin noses and a unique bump on the back of their head. To this very day, no one knows exactly where this exotic race of people came from or how they got in these mountains. Historically, Melungeons kept to themselves, living separate from both Native Americans and whites, and they never participated in any of the wars that these two populations waged against one another. Because of their isolation, their existence went largely unnoticed in Appalachia until the late 1800s. Yet, there were clues of their existence much earlier. For example, in the late 1600s, French explorers reported finding men who weren't Indian or white in the mountain pockets of modern-day Tennessee. And during the formation of the lost state of Franklin, John Sevier was next to write about them in the 1780s when he noted that there was a colony of dark-skinned, reddish-brown complexioned people supposed to be of Moorish descent living in the mountains of East Tennessee who called themselves Melungeons and claimed to be of Portuguese descent. And by 1795, even the census listed 300 free, non-white persons living in the mountains of East Tennessee. And since there had never been slaves or more than 50 blacks living in this area at the time, these 300 free, non-white persons were apparently the first government acknowledgement of the existence of Melungeons. And by the late 1800s, that number had increased to over 700 people. And that's when the existence of this mysterious race began to appear in newspapers all across America, attracting the curiosity of countless historians and scientists who descended on East Tennessee and Virginia to investigate the Melungeons. Some speculated that they were descendants of shipwrecked Portuguese sailors, while others claimed that they were lost colonists from the Outer Banks. Other researchers claimed that they were a mixed race of Indian and African and even Mediterranean. Wild theories emerged, stating that the origins of this race began when Hernando de Soto traveled through these mountains in 1540, while others contended that they might be the ancestors of Captain Juan Pardo, who brought an army of 125 Spanish men to the mountains in 1567, and that those men likely married with Native Americans. But perhaps the most spectacular theory were that they were actually Phoenicians who fled the ancient city of Carthage after the Romans conquered them in 146 BC. As fascinating as each theory was, the question still remained: who were these people? And how did they get here? Coming up next, we explore each of these theories, separating myth from reality, and examine new possibilities that may hold the key to unlocking the mystery of the Melungeons. Hey guys, JD here from the Appalachian Storyteller, and I hope you're enjoying this true story of the Melungeons. If you are, I hope you'll consider checking out my brand new book, which is full of stories just like the one you're listening to now. Also, be sure to stick around. Coming up, I'll be giving away a free CD of original Appalachian music featuring the song Melungeon that's heard in today's video. And now, back to the story.
My great-grandpa sailed across the sea, told Englishmen he was Portuguese, and they pushed him west 'cause he had dark skin, to Newman's ridge with his other kin, and there they lived. Melungeon, oh Melungeon.
Perhaps one of the most fascinating theories surrounding Melungeon ancestry takes place in the ancient city of Carthage in 200 BC, on the banks of the Mediterranean Sea, and was part of the Phoenician Empire. Carthage was one of the largest metropolises in the world during this time, and with one of the most powerful armies and navies. However, the Roman Empire was spreading, and soon they set out to take control of Carthage, and this resulted in the Punic Wars that raged for over 40 years and caused countless casualties before Rome finally conquered Carthage. Now under Roman rule, many people from Carthage fled to Morocco and immigrated across the Straits of Gibraltar before settling in the coastal region of Portugal, where they intermarried and were known as the Moors. Shakespeare himself made these refugees immortal in his celebrated play, The Moor of Venice. These were the same people who had fought the Romans so bravely and heroically. Eventually, a considerable number of these people crossed the Atlantic, where their ship was marooned off the coast of South Carolina, near the North Carolina line. However, as soon as they arrived, they were rejected by the white people, who refused to associate with them on equal terms or allow their children to go to school with them due to the unusual color of their skin. Because of this, these newcomers to America migrated further and further inland before crossing to the western side of the Appalachian Mountains, settling in eastern Tennessee. Another theory is that the Melungeons were actually survivors from the lost Roanoke colony. In 1585, Sir Walter Raleigh made an attempt to establish the first permanent English settlement in North America. It was a daring attempt to settle on Roanoke Island in the Outer Banks, off the coast of North Carolina, with 120 settlers. But you see, this new world was fraught with dangers, and they quickly realized that they would need much more food and supplies. Thus, the mothership returned to England to replenish, with promises to return as soon as possible. However, it wouldn't land on Roanoke Island again until 5 years later, when it found the colonists' fortified fort completely abandoned. The 120 people, they had all disappeared. The only clue that remained was the word Croatia, carved into a tree. Did the settlers assimilate with the Croatian Indians, who modern-day researchers claim were already of mixed blood, containing both Spanish and Portuguese blood? Are these people the ancestors to the Melungeons? Still, others claim that Melungeons are in fact descended from the Spanish explorer Hernando de Soto, who brought an army of 600 men, along with 100 women servants, in 1540, and they navigated the Nulchucky, the French Broad, and the Little Tennessee rivers deep into East Tennessee, looking for gold, copper, silver, and freshwater pearls. Now, De Soto drove his army deeper and deeper into East Tennessee, engaging in many battles with the natives that cost the lives of nearly half of his men. De Soto himself would end up dying from a fever he contracted in his foreign land, and it's theorized that many of his troops defected in Appalachia and intermarried with natives, and were in fact the true ancestors of the Melungeons. One final theory happened 20 years later in the 1560s, when Spanish explorer Juan Pardo led several expeditions with 120 men through modern-day South and North Carolina. He built several forts along his route as he sought to establish trading relations with the Native Americans. One of the forts that he built was on the French Broad River in East Tennessee. Yet, most of his men were killed in a brutal attack from the natives in 1568, and those who survived the attack were left behind as they fled into the mountains. Many researchers claim that these people were the forerunners to the Melungeons. However they arrived. By the year 1900, the 700 Melungeons living on Newman's Ridge looked like no other people living in America, and they had distinctly Mediterranean characteristics. They fiercely contended that they were descended from Portuguese bloodlines, and some old-timers during the 1800s claimed that they were here long before the whites arrived. Officially, the state of Tennessee classified them as free persons of color, which limited their land rights, and perhaps explains why they were concentrated on Newman's Ridge, where there was little fertile soil.
They were Melungeon. Oh, Melungeon.
For the next few decades, sensational stories ran in newspapers all over America concerning the Melungeons. Then, in the 1930s, something strange started happening. Their numbers began decreasing. With new opportunities provided by public education, new generations began making the steep climb down Newman's Ridge and intermarrying with other races, starting lives in faraway places. Suddenly, by the 1960s, all the Melungeons with Mediterranean characteristics were gone, and now were replaced with a melting pot of mixed races. Newspapers across America documented the disappearance of Appalachia's lost tribe. The Melungeons' notoriety suddenly vanished and became an obscure footnote in East Tennessee until the early 2000s, when sites like Ancestry.com and other DNA databases became popular. Suddenly, it became a badge of honor to claim Melungeon heritage, with tens of thousands of people claiming Melungeon blood. And by 2010, the first attempts at large-scale DNA testing were carried out by genetic testing companies. And there have been several studies since 2011, and all of the results indicated a melting pot of genetic makeup, with some Melungeons having African heritage, and others having Native American, and even more having European ancestry. These results have led to more questions than answers. And that alone brings into question the accuracy of ancestry DNA tests. It's a lot to consider. Were the Melungeons a triracial race, as recent DNA studies suggest? Or is their story something much, much deeper than we will ever know? How about you? What do you think? I look forward to reading your comments below. And finally, as promised, we're giving away a free CD of Appalachian music today that was created as a fundraiser for the Lee County, Virginia Historical Society. All you have to do to enter is just share your thoughts about what you think about the Melungeon story below. In a couple days, we'll pick a winner and I'll mail this CD to you for free. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next story.
They were Melungeons.